welcome to SVG-TV News for Monday, February 3rd, 2020. I am Investor Boynes with the details. The Ministry of Health has taken all the necessary steps to beef up its surveillance systems at the various ports of entry to keep out the deadly coronavirus. A press conference held today at the Ministry of Health conference room brought together health professionals and specialists, providing information on the country's efforts to prevent the virus from entering these shores, as well as the infrastructures that are in place if the virus is to be detected here. Over 14,000 cases have been recorded so far globally, with over 300 deaths. China, the epicenter of the outbreak, has the majority of cases. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Simone Keizer-Beache said advanced passenger information is readily available so that authorities at the various ports of entry can tell if a person has recently traveled to China or may have been in contact with a person who recently returned from the Asian country. Dr. Keizer-Beache said the screening process begins before a suspected passenger disembarks from an arriving aircraft.
Screening, please be aware of the fact that normally, the normal process at all of our ports of entry, and we said there were two official ports of entry, AIA and Kingston Harbour, is that so a plane comes in, there is a listing of all of the passengers, and the flight attendant is supposed to inform, and the port health officer will request that information. Do you have somebody who is sick? What are the symptoms? Where's that person sitting? And so that's where the first set of screening starts, before anybody comes off of the plane. The same thing happens, as Minister described, at the seaport. Okay? So the screening starts there.
It was also noted at today's press conference that well-trained health personnel were placed at the various ports of entry who can perform what is known as a secondary screening for potential carriers of the virus. There are reports from various international media outlets that a number of health personnel have been contracting the virus as they come in contact with an affected person. In the case of SVG, Dr. Beache said specialized equipment are in place to protect health professionals as they conduct the screening exercise.
Protective equipment designed to protect you from whatever the agent is you want to be protected from. So depending on what the mechanism of transmission is, meaning if it is something that's transmitted, say Ebola, which is body fluids, or if it's something that is just coughing, your level of how much you grab up, how much of that you put on is going to be dependent on that. So we have distributed PPEs to ports of entry. So we have them at the Argyle International Airport. We have them at all of our healthcare facilities. And we have informed our stakeholders, so immigration, customs, AIA, in terms of what you need to get. Because it's not a simple matter of going and buying some boots, a dust mask, and some goggles. There's specific specifications to ensure that you're being protected.
Isolation is an important measure which can effectively prevent person-to-person spread of the virus. The Chief Medical Officer said there is capacity here to provide isolation when and if necessary.
Okay, so we have in country 2 portable isolation units and 2 portable capsules. One is located at the AIA and one is located in the Ministry of Health Emergency Disaster Unit. When I say portable, it's a tent which has all of the sections for isolation, so we can set it up wherever we need to. And the one at the airport is there. So suppose somebody comes into the airport, we have the capacity at the airport to isolate persons in a proper isolation unit, which meets all the standards right at the airport. Okay, so we can do it in, Ms. Bascom, it sets up in 5 minutes. And the firefighters at the airport have been trained to do it. So 5 minutes and we're ready to go. Okay?
Minister of Health, Wellness and the Environment, Luke Brown, said all precautions were taken to ensure that a cruise ship which recently docked at Port Kingston with some sick passengers on board posed no threat to locals. Over the weekend, news broke that on the Ida Pearl, which docked at Port Kingston on Friday, 23 of the 3,000 were ill with the virus. Questions have since been raised as to why the cruise ship was allowed entry, even more so after the same ship was denied entry by both St. Lucia and Dominica days after. The minister said the decision to allow the ship to dock at Port Kingstown was done after all the necessary health checks were made.
You know, there's a lot of discussion circulating in the media right now about the fact that a boat which was allowed to enter St. Vincent, a cruise ship that came to St. Vincent, subsequently went to St. Lucia and was denied entry because there were sick persons on board. Well, in the first place, a cruise ship with over 3,000 persons is bound to have some sick persons on board at any point in time. And we did all the necessary screening in relation to that cruise ship, and the decision to allow it to dock here was consistent with the guidance which is being offered by the public health agencies. Because in the first place, not because somebody is sick means that automatically the vessel should not come here. And we have some particular measures that would be applied to persons with a travel history to China, which will be developed, but I want to underscore that we did our public health assessment before that vessel came and docked here and proved that it was safe for it to be able to come to St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Chief Medical Officer Dr. Simone Keizer-Beache said the ministry has already identified a pool of qualified personnel to assist with screening at the ports of entry when necessary. She was at the time responding to a question on the number of qualified personnel who can conduct the activity and whether or not volunteers can assist. Dr. Beach said the screening must be done by qualified persons and retired nurses in the country can be called upon if necessary.
The issue in Jamaica was the thing of the port health nurses, and that they had been losing specially trained post health nurses. And so despite the fact that we would love your volunteer effort, this is a highly specialized area, and you would have to go through some years of training in order to be able to adequately function. So we have no fast track. So we have port health nurses. We have recently, over the last 2 years, we had about 3 additional port health nurses coming in. So we have those persons on staff, and if needs be, we can re-employ some of our retired port health staff, both nurses and environmental health officers. So in terms of our surge capacity for that particular skill set, that would be the plan, to re-engage some of the retired port health officers, be they EHOs or public health nurses. All right? So that's our plan.
Foot care practitioner Sister Janice Oliver Crease is encouraging diabetics to take good care of their feet in order to prevent foot ulcers which can lead to amputation. Recent statistics revealed that between January to November last year, 36 males and 26 females between the age range 36 to 95 had foot amputations. The amputation included above the knee, below the knee, and toes of the diabetic patients who had foot ulcers that had worsened. Sister Oliver said that the number of persons coming to the hospital with foot ulcers is very frightening, noting that diabetics need to take better care of their health.
For the amount of diabetic foot ulcer that I am seeing, and persons are coming into hospital, even though you're telling them about prevention, I think that they are not taking it serious enough. I think some of them are a bit complacent, to say. It may be other factors which we don't know, but I normally speak to them as to prevention. You cannot walk bare feet. You cannot walk in what we call gunslinger. Everybody will know what is gunslinger or flip-flop, because they will come and tell you, oh no, this is comfortable for me, but you must not put any strap between your big toe and your second toe. Preferably, your foot should be enclosed.
Sister Oliver said because of amputation of the foot, especially in males, it leads to a wide array of problems in and outside of the home, as some persons find it difficult to cope with and to live a normal life.
Because if you have amputation, you're going to be out of work for a while. You might be in the, you might be males. You might be in the private sector. Who knows if you still have a job when you return? Depends on how long you were out. You understand? So I want people to really take this thing serious. Take their health when they are diabetic very serious. When it comes to the foot and the kidney, they have to watch what they eat. Control the blood sugar level. Because if it doesn't control, we're going to end up with amputation. Which is very painful. It's very painful. Look at the husband who may have an amputation. He is the main breadwinner in the home. And that alone is going to traumatize him.
The foot care practitioner said it is important that diabetics get their feet checked regularly and always wear comfortable shoes to prevent damage to feet.
Our public health centers, when you come to the clinic, you should have your feet assessed each visit so that we can pick up quickly if there is any change, any bruise, any cut, any blister, any discoloration. If there is a wound that is not healing properly, we can deal with it as quickly as possible. I know there are persons out there, they get a cut and they stay at home doing their own thing. And when it gets out of control, then they come down or they go across to the health center. By the time it's late, how much can we do? And then when you hear that you may lose your toe because you stay home too long, you may lose all of your toe, which is transmetatarsal amputation, because you stay too long. You can't have diabetes and doing your own thing. You have a cut, you have to seek urgent attention immediately. And when it comes to foot care in the diabetic, I'm very passionate. You must have appropriate shoe to wear also.
The Miracle Mission will return to SVG from February 8th to 14th, 2020 to conduct free visual testing with the aim of helping persons with limited resources who have vision problems, mainly caused by cataracts and pterygium. Testing will take place on Sunday, February 9th at the Kingston Clinic, Monday, February 10th at the Georgetown Medical Complex, Tuesday, February 11th at Bookerman's Polyclinic, Wednesday, February 12th in Bequia, Thursday, February 13th in Mesopotamia, and Friday, February 14th in Chateaubelair. Head of the Venezuelan mission, Francisco Perez Santana, along with the Permanent Secretary of Health, Cuthbert Knights, and his team of medical professionals, recently met to determine the logistical needs and work agenda of the Venezuelan ophthalmologists who will soon arrive in the country. A release from the Venezuelan embassy: in this new stage of the Miracle Mission, a total of 4 phases will be carried out. The first is the visual diagnosis to determine the needs of the patient. The second phase is the selection of patients who will do the exams required for the pre-operative phase. The third is the surgical intervention, and the fourth and final stage will be the post-operative evaluation of the patient. In SVG, through the cooperation program between member countries of the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America, People's Trade Agreement, and the Bolivarian government, the Miracle Mission has carried out 310 surgical interventions, mainly on persons with conditions of cataracts and pterygium. Minister of Finance Camila Gonsalves is at this time presenting the 2020 budget, which he said is ambitious, people-centered, and one which will set the pace for developments in St. Vincent and the Grenadines for the next decade. This year's budget amounts to $1,186,251,151. The Finance Minister said Budget 2020 covers all aspects that will benefit all Vincentians. The Finance Minister said while some may claim that the 2020 budget is an election budget, as it is being said by some quarters, including the opposition. We will bring you more on the Finance Minister's budget presentation in tomorrow's newscast. Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves on radio on Sunday strongly condemned the recent acts of violence against women in the country. He said it is very heart-wrenching whenever he hears about females being brutally abused, and his thoughts are always with the victims and their family.
I feel it so in such a personal kind of a way, you know. I mean, I could just imagine the parents of this young girl who got chopped in Greg's.
Yeah.
The Cuban parents and family of this nurse who got killed was a wonderful human being.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I knew her very well, so I felt that one.
Yeah.
Very, very painful. I saw on Friday evening last, I saw her, as she'd always be at an event with the Cubans.
The Prime Minister said that churches, homes, communities, the media and everyone else needs to come together in condemnation of these acts of violence. He said that the government is putting structures and systems in place to end violence against women in the society.
It is important that we put structures and systems in place. Like, for instance, the unit dealing with violence against women and sexual offences down at Kittel's. Trafficking in persons, there's a strong unit there. Beefing up the police more, strengthening the laws, as we have done. But these are things which when the end product comes with violence, the question is to reduce as far as practicable or prevent the extent of the violence. That's where all of us come in.
PM Gonsalves said that some of the movies and games that persons watch on a daily basis can contribute to acts of violence against each other, and they must be careful not to be led astray by these elements.
And I block it every time. Not interested in that. Because I read upon the addiction of those things and the violence which those things engender in directly and indirectly, in terms of robbing people to go and play these games and so on and so forth now. And plus what they inculcate in people, a certain mindless numbness. Technology is important and we have to apply it properly, but we know it can be used for certain purposes which have the potential to undermine order and discipline fabric in the society.
In a news release issued over the weekend, the opposition New Democratic Party said it is deeply concerned about the all too frequent acts of violence against women in SVG. The party says it condemns in the strongest possible term these violent acts perpetrated against women and girls in the country, noting that any act of violence is one incident too many. The NDP says whether the cause is domestic in nature or otherwise, all acts of violence against women must be condemned and treated with equal seriousness, and that the full weight of the law must be brought to bear to deter persons from such acts. The police here on Saturday, February 1st, 2020, arrested and charged Mitchell Israel, a 57-year-old civil servant of Kittel's, for with malice aforethought caused the death of his wife Ariana Duhart Taylor Israel, a 44-year-old staff nurse, by an unlawful act by shooting her about her body about 3:45 p.m. Thursday on January 30th, 2020 at Kingston Park. The accused appeared before Chief Magistrate Rishon Brown today at the Serious Offences Court for an arraignment. He was not allowed to plead to the indictable offence and was remanded into custody until his next court appearance on March 18, 2020. Vincent soca artist Shirts James, aka Problem Child, is through to the finals in the power category of the International Soca Monarch to be held in Trinidad and Tobago this Friday. James competed in the semi-finals last evening, performing his hit Nasty Out. Here is a snippet of his performance. Gyms will now get ready for the finals this Friday at the Queen's Park Savannah in Port of Spain. Another Vincentian who competed in the semi-finals of the International Soca Monarch, this time in the groovy category, was reigning Raga Soca Monarch Hans John, who from all reports had a good performance but failed to secure a spot in the finals. Here is a snippet of Hans's performance of Uptown Party at the Arima Velodrome.
Once got another carrot, rock the clock, now on a shot. That's what we do it from behind the door, on me feet, biting it. Boy,